Okay, let's kick it off. Good morning, everyone. My name's Katie. I am from Boomerang Labs, or Australia's first circular economy accelerator. And alongside the programs that we run for circular entrepreneurs, we also run a monthly webinar series. We bring in different topics that are important to the circular economy in Australia, and we hope to demystify some of the complexities and some of the intimidating um, areas of the sector of the ecosystem to encourage a bit more participation. To begin, I'd like to firstly acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all gathering across Australia from today and beyond. For me, that's the Awabakal and the Wanneroo people in Hunter Valley. As I mentioned, we are Australia's first circular economy accelerator, and we are incredibly lucky to work with some fantastic founders that are embedding circular economy within their small businesses and their circular systems that they're creating. We run a variety of programs. This counts as one of our events, but we also run a base camp for the ideation phase founders that are looking to see if they have a business idea with legs. We do a boot camp for early stage startups, and then we have an accelerator program for late stage startups looking to scale and commercialize. So very quickly, I will just promote this, is that applications are open right now for our Circular Economy Accelerator. It is open to New South Wales-based startups only due to our funding partner. However, we'd love to hear from you, regardless of what state or territory you're from, because we do have future programs planned which are further reaching. We're industry agnostic, so we bring together a really interesting cohort of startups, and it is a selective process. So we only bring on about 8 to 12 startups to go through the program. As I said, we do have a monthly webinar series. So the next one is lined up for the first Thursday of September, similar to today for August. And we'll be talking about customer retention and loyalty and why that's incredibly important for all startups, but especially when we're looking at reuse systems in circular startups. I will pass over straight to Jonathan now. He will kick off today's presentation. I'll leave his introduction to him too, but we will have time for questions afterwards, both for Jonathan and for Nick. And then we will make sure we have time allocated at the end for some networking and speed round of introductions for some of the people online today. So I'll stop sharing and pass to you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Katie, and great to see everybody here today and also see some familiar names and faces. So thanks for taking time to come along and hear about what we are doing in the food waste space. So there we go. So yeah, my name's Jonathan. I'm part of the team from Fight Food Waste Limited. Can you see my screen?
Just says end of slideshow.
Okay. How about we start from the beginning? There we go. There we go. Morning, everyone. Yes, great to be here to talk about Fight Food Waste Limited and our role in the job to try and deliver the UN Sustainable Development Goal 12.3. There's two of us here to do the double act today, myself and Nick, because there's two arms to our organization. So I will talk about the CRC and Nick will talk about Stop Food Waste Australia. But I'll give a little bit of context first on Fight Food Waste Limited, the organization, and then explain a bit about the two arms of the business and give some examples from the research side of the work that I do, and also try and give it a bit of context around startups and what it can mean for businesses in general, how they can get involved and work with us. So let's just start with a bit of, I guess, context. This is some work that's been ongoing for a little bit of time now. The work started with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, and the one that we choose if you're playing Sustainable Development Bingo is 12.3, which is to halve global per capita food waste as the federal government started with this back in November 2017 when they issued their National Food Waste Strategy, which really set the context for how we wanted to work towards achieving this as a nation. And they identified, I guess, 4 priority pillars within that strategy, which was around policy support, business improvements, market development, and behavior change. And then not through that document itself, but in some parallel activity, the Fight Food Waste organization was born and structured in a way to try and address and deliver those priorities as the sort of lead agency for Australia to deliver those towards those goals. So the work's been already going on for some time. And there was a very clear structure to it from day one, which I think was a great thing. And our work over the last 5 years that we've been in existence has been about putting in place actions within that structure to try and deliver the impact and the target, which is, of course, is reducing food waste by half. If you look at Fight Food Waste Ltd as an organization, we really now have a structure in place that enables us to cover quite a broad, I would say, chain of development. So from starting with solving tricky food waste problems, the R&D area, which is the work of the CRC, and then the implementation of those solutions, and also working with business on implementation is the work of Stop Food Waste Australia, which I will leave Nick to talk to once I've talked through the R&D aspect. So what does R&D look like in the Fight Food Waste space? And some of you may have seen this. I don't think this one got a Guernsey on Tuesday night, but this is a pretty broad model that sort of brings helps people understand what are some of the options, or what can we be doing to try and create value out of the food waste through research and development. And this is a model that was put together by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation back in 2019. So what it says is, what are the ways to do it? Well, the best way to reduce food waste is not to create it in the first place. Guess what? So prevention is always our first objective in all of these activities. What can we do to stop it happening? The next is then trying to find getting food waste, if it is created, or products that are surplus to consumers, so they can still be redistributed. And that's where the food agencies play a really big role and do a fantastic job. And then if there's products which are unable to be utilized, how do we keep them in a circular system? We've got a couple of different options. So we can transform them into a new food product. We can convert them into inputs for agriculture, things like animal feeds, or we can also look at new materials and bioenergy. And that's sort of the scope, the primary scope of Fight Food Waste as a CRC. There is also, of course, a lot of work going on around composting and processing green waste. That's sort of the next tier of solution. And there are probably other entities that are more focused on investigating and delivering those solutions. So we do work a little bit in that space, but we try to focus as high up the value chain as we can, which is these 5 areas of work. There is also a little pitch there, just in case you're make sure you're paying attention, to say, as a CRC, the way we work is that we provide matching investment funding to projects. So a company comes to me and says, we've got a research problem to solve, and together we say it's going to cost us $100,000 to do that research. Then what we can do is that I can, through my federal money match dollar for dollar. So then the industry partner puts in 50,000 and I match it with 50,000, and we've still got some of that matching funding available. And we're halfway through the life of the CRC, and I spend a lot of my time talking to companies with food waste problems and trying to work out if research is an area to try and address that food waste problem and working with them on solutions. So there is still, I guess the message is there is still matching funds to do projects. Two things to remember. One is it's matching funds, and the second thing is that it's still considered an investment on behalf of the CRC. So we are still looking at how eventually we can see that investment delivering a return as part of the execution of the project. So then I just wanted to talk through some different examples of these 5 pathways, just to show you the sorts of R&D projects that we get involved with, to also show some of the partners that we worked with along the way. So I mentioned prevention. Prevention there's really throughout the supply chain. So we work with businesses on prevention. We also work with households on prevention. And much of the work to date has been really trying to understand. This is a very complicated, multidisciplinary, multi-factor problem. And so we've been doing much of our research to date has been trying to really understand the baseline, understand attitudes and behaviors, trying to test and validate different interventions, because we know there are a number of different ways and many different ways, many different levers that you can pull to try and help people reduce food waste in the home. So much of our research to date has involved lots of different partners. You can see there from industry to government to research, and really trying to understand what sort of interventions can be effective. I guess much of our work going forward now is starting to really test and validate and implement some of these interventions that we believe can make a difference. The second one I mentioned is about redistribution, and this is where the food rescue charities do an amazing job. So a lot of that work is in hand. Where we tend to get more involved is in places like the one on the far right, where we say there's an opportunity for maybe changes in policy that can encourage redistribution of food, or the project in the middle, and this is one example of many, where we might look at an IT solution or app-based solution that can help to connect end users with people with food waste. So we have worked with a number of startups that look at different sorts of IT solutions to help reduce food waste. Number 3 is about ingredients and transferring, and probably for the sake of, I think I'll try to manage all the questions at the end. So if you have got questions, write them down. Don't forget them, because I love questions, and we've left lots of time for them. The third one is about transforming products that would otherwise be wasted into new ingredients. And these are just 3 examples of many. So these are projects either active or completed, but we've looked at many different types of raw materials, including but not limited to potatoes, green leafy waste, bananas. And the research tends to be either looking at the process of converting that into a product or an ingredient, or it can also be about assessing the functionality of that ingredient that you've created. So sometimes you've made an ingredient that has a new or different function, or you want to understand and assess what that function might be. So we can do research to understand what's special about that new ingredient, to try and encourage more of that transformation work to occur. Or we can do research to find out how you can do that on a commercial process. What's the scale? How do you scale something you've been doing in your kitchen to a larger scale? And once again, this is, I've shown some companies, not all, but this is with usually with large horticulture partners, but also with startups often that have technology solutions that are applicable, or startups that are working in this space, with the example of Banana Feeds Australia. And last but not least, well, actually, number 4 is inputs for agriculture and animal feed. This is in and of itself, it sounds like this should be something that's quite simple to say, well, it's food and then we feed it to animals. I guess the complexity is when you try to do this at scale, and ensuring it's done in a safe and consistent manner. So, there's this example here where there are individual operators who can do it on an individual basis quite successfully. This particular lady's done an amazing job. But in order to do it at scale with industry, we need to have a lot more security and surety around the processing, around the materials, around the food safety, to ensure it can be done in a safe and scalable way. So that's where we're doing a project with Australasian Pork Research and also with the South Australian team, looking at how we can scale that. I don't have a slide on biomaterials, just because I don't, no reason. But we do also look at things like there is a lot of work going on in biopolymers and bioplastics. So looking at food waste as a raw material to that is also an area of interest to us. Honestly, we don't have as many projects in that space right now. And that's just because I haven't found the money to do them yet. If in case there's more interest around some of the specific examples, or you want to read some more about what we've done and some of the research projects we've done, there's a couple of things you can do. You can jump on our website. All of the active projects and the completed projects are listed out there. It's not the easiest place to read, but it's comprehensive. But this is also a nice summary document that talks about the role of food waste within the circular economy that we produce in conjunction with KPMG and ourselves, and has some really, I would say, well-written and interesting case studies. You don't have to try and quickly write down that link. I think Katie's kindly going to pop it in the chat box. So if you want to download that and have a read at your leisure, then by all means. But just give you some more good sort of food for thought on some of the projects that we've been over and above of what I've talked to today. So what does that mean? Our role as a CRC is to help industry partners solve tricky food waste problems, and we help by connecting them with researchers that can solve the problems, and we help by contributing some of the cost of the research as well. So that's the thing to think about. If part of your work has got a strong research component to it, where you are going to have to go out to get some research support to help do your work, then certainly come and talk to us, or think about, is there a way that we can be involved and help support in executing that research. Now, once your amazing research is all done, then that's where my counterpart, Nick, gets involved, and he gets involved much more on the implementation and execution on the ground. So I will pass the floor to him and let him take it from there.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'll just share my screen.
I'll talk while you're doing that, because it's impossible to talk and do that at the same time, as I discovered 10 minutes ago.
Hopefully that'll come through. Can you see it yet?
Yep.
Thank you. As we know, Australia is a powerhouse of food production. Our food's in such high demand that every year we produce enough of it to feed 75 million people. Indeed, 90% of our domestic food needs come from within Australia. Despite this, our food system tends to be inefficient and can be wasteful, with a combination of an enormous amount of good quality food ending up in the bin at the same time as many Australians are struggling to feed their families each day. Every year, Australia wastes 7.6 million tonnes of food. On a practical basis, that's enough to fill the Melbourne cricket ground to the brim almost 9 times over. This waste costs our economy almost $37 billion, and it's happening in a time where over 2 million households across Australia experienced severe food insecurity last year. The social and economic costs of food waste are matched by the environmental impacts. Wasted food, for example, contributes 17.5 million tonnes of CO2 to our country's carbon footprint. Rotting food in landfill, as you know, releases methane, which is a greenhouse gas, and it's 25 times more potent than carbon. These are quite stark statistics. However, last year, 10 leading food companies reported their food waste data at the end of their first year as signatories to the Australian Food Pact. Together, they prevented a total of 340,000 tonnes of surplus food from going to waste destinations. That's an average of 34,000 tonnes each, along the way also providing an additional 54 million meals to those desperately in need of help. I know this is a drop in the ocean compared to the scale of the problem, but the drop has created a ripple, and the ripple is spreading. So my role is to work with some of our leading food businesses in the Australian Food Pact. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what we do. My purpose here today is to show you not only is change possible, but it's happening right now. I also want to invite you to join our fight against food waste, food insecurity, and the environmental damage caused by food waste. If you haven't heard of the Australian Food Pact, it's a voluntary agreement signed by the companies that grow, make and sell our food. Backed by the federal government and with a broad partnership, the Pact is a multi-year agreement to help deliver the goal of halving Australia's food waste by 2030. We aim to achieve this by collaborating at scale to work on common issues across the food and beverage value chain. And our role at Stop Food Waste Australia is to drive action, provide technical support and expertise, and connect our signatories to each other, to international best practice on food waste reduction, and to organisations working in the circular economy to help them deliver on their promises. So the Pact itself is designed to be circular in nature. Each signatory provides a financial commitment to support the Pact, 30% of which is ring-fenced for projects that directly benefit the signatory. That might be getting involved with the CRC in a project, for example. The way that we work with companies and how we define waste in our measurement and reporting metrics is consistent with the food waste hierarchy, which is here on the screen. According to the hierarchy, preventing or avoiding food waste, this is the top green bit, is the most preferred option, and that's followed by upcycling, so there may be a project involved in that with the CRC, donation to food rescue, and diverting to animal feed. Each activity in the hierarchy below animal feed, so that's the orange and red lines, that's considered to be a waste destination, so that's landfill, incineration without recovery, flushing down the sewer, on-farm disposal, they're all at the very bottom of the hierarchy. Now, Stop Food Waste Australia, which delivers the Australian Food Pact, it's a unique public-private partnership made up of federal, state, local governments, industry bodies such as the NRA, National Farmers Federation, Australian Institute of Packaging, the Fight Food Waste CRC, RAP from the UK, who started voluntary agreements many years ago, and the 4 main food rescue organisations in Australia. Our original cohort, of 10 signatories has grown, and there are currently 30 signatories to the Pact across various signatory tiers. The full signatories have a combined Australian revenue of around $95 billion, which means that the potential impact they can have on our country's overall food waste is pretty significant. Our solution provider signatories are innovative companies run by visionaries with a purpose. They may have a tech solution such as Yumi, or they may be keeping edible surplus food out of landfill by repurposing it into delicious new products such as NutriV and Good and Fugly. So how the pact works once a company commits to and signs can vary depending on the type of business involved and when in the cycle of the year they begin working with us. Every business is unique and will work with the pact in their own unique way. Our basic approach, though, is based on target, measure, act, and that involves setting an internal or a public-facing target to reduce food waste, for example, halving it by 2030, quantifying and reporting annually on that waste, and then creating a plan of action to deal with it. And we call that a food waste action plan. It's a key part of how we deliver the pact. So activities within that food waste action plan may include a site food waste assessment, for example. That's where one of our technical specialists will physically walk through a facility with the whole site team, and they'll identify food waste hotspots. We then apply root cause analysis, report back on the possible solutions to reduce the food waste in those hotspots. Signatories then may wish to undertake a further research project, or they may implement some of the low-hanging fruit and run trials to run out successful solutions across the whole business. Aside from the obvious environmental and social benefits of tackling food waste in a business, there is an economic opportunity for companies as well. And this has to be taken with a pinch of salt, this slide, but it's indicative based on the data that was submitted to us in the first year of reporting. So the size of the prize, for example, for a food manufacturing company may look something like this. Annual revenue of around $500 million. They could have something in the region of around a 40 million plus opportunity through tackling the food waste purely within their own operations. And this is made up of around 15 million in lost value from just throwing away food that could be sold, together with the costs of disposal of that waste. And added to these costs then is the around 25 million in lost value from sending surplus food to animal feed, for example, or redistributing it through food rescue organisations. The pact is built on collaboration and the principle that none of us can have the desired impact through acting alone. Our collaborative working groups are a great example of how we can get work done together around a common issue. From creating a shared guidance document for net zero or scope 3 emissions, to working together to unlock greater efficiencies in the food rescue sector, or partnering with the Australian Institute of Packaging, for example, to ensure that food packaging is not only sustainable, but continues to protect our food from going to waste. There's lots of smart folks collaborating on projects to reduce our overall food waste. And thank you for listening, but I just wanted to end on this theme of collaboration because it's absolutely critical to achieving our goal of halving food waste. Individual businesses can achieve a lot on their own. We've seen it, and it is amazing what can be done within each business. However, tackling big issues such as food waste requires big solutions and cannot be achieved in isolation. We've made a start, but with no time to waste, we need more businesses to join the fight. If you want to learn more about how your company can become part of the solution and commit to the Australian Food Pact, you can book a one-to-one with me via this link here on the QR code. Thank you. I'll hand back to Katie.
Great, thanks, Nick. I will add some more spotlights for Jonathan and myself, so you're not lonely by yourself up there on the screen for everyone. Thank you both for those presentations. They gave a lot of great information. And I think we might throw straight to the first question we do have in the chat, but like we've said throughout, everyone's more than welcome to add questions in the chat box to continue that. Otherwise, I'll just hold the stage and keep asking questions that I have of myself. So Jonathan, I may throw straight to you as I realise you've had a bit of a read of that question already. But that was about the monitoring or the measurement of effectiveness when people are implementing these interventions at the household level. And I realise you've put a link in there, letting everyone else know that that's there. But if you wanted to, I guess, summarise even what that link will let people know.
Yep. No, it's a great question, and it's hard. Like, let's make no mistake. As I think I alluded to, this is a really complicated, multifaceted problem. And it's one that we've already spent a lot of time trying to understand. How do we measure it? Look, in the end, we are a research organization, so we collect and analyze data. And data can come from many different sources. So the program or the link that I put in the chat is a toolkit that we've assembled from the Engage team. So that's one of the 3 research teams within our CRC. And that's being compiled by a lot of surveys, a lot of consumer insights sessions with people in home, so one-to-one discussions, but which has really formed the basis for that work. But then there is other work that has been published which looks at broader data sets. So one of our professors, a lady called Sarah Wheeler from University of Adelaide, is a economist. So she looks at data sets to see how interventions are affecting, waste collection volumes. So really measuring some real quantitative data as well. So the short answer is we measure data and we analyze it. The long answer is there's lots of different sources of data, but we always try to at least collect data from many different sources and bring I guess an independent assessment to that data, and then publish and share those results to try and help encourage behavior change with the nation at large. I hope I answered the question.
Perfect. Thank you. That was great. Nick, I don't want to leave you out. If you had anything to add to that, or we can go straight to the next one.
Nothing really to add to that, apart from obviously we use a lot of measurement and reporting in the Australian Food Pact as well. And we're using sort of international best practice guidelines on that, so that businesses can report their waste reduction.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask how how your work directly relates to collaboration with startups. So I'd love to ask that. But also on the call today, we also have different state and territory governments. We have federal governments. We have not-for-profits. We have just about every group in our economy online. So we'd love to hear how you guys, I guess, who's the first few people that you mostly work with, but yeah, startups particularly love an answer to that.
Happy to go first if you want, Jonathan.
You go first, otherwise I'll just yak on.
Startups, and they're an important part of delivering the Australian Food Pact. Obviously, we have a membership tier or commitment tier for solution providers. So there are companies that may be on this call, circular economy companies that may have a solution that will help a food business to reduce its food waste. So yes, important part of the Australian Food Pact.
Yeah, look, and it's sort of similar but different answer for me. So my job is really searching for gold, frankly. I've got some matching funding in my back pocket, but it's matching funding. So there are lots of potential solutions or potential ideas for projects, but I need to find a way to fund them. So I'm often looking at how can we bring together a collaboration of interested parties that can work together, and one of those parties has to bring some money to the party. Often that's not the startup, because typically startups are not cash rich. But startups can bring innovations and technologies and new thinking. So for me, it's about trying to assemble the right groups for the different potential research ideas that we're looking at. So it's a lot of conversations with different parties. Everybody I talk to so far is trying to do the same thing. I haven't met anybody that doesn't want to reduce food waste. That's the good news. And there's many different solutions. There's probably, if I talk to 10 people, I'll get 12 solutions. But it's trying to connect the right solutions with the right interested parties, with the right researchers, with the right government bodies, to get an active project and make the project happen. So researchers, startups definitely play a big role in that. And it's just finding the right partners to support and work together on a common goal.
Perfect, thank you. That definitely answers my question. I will throw, we've got one in the chat, so I'll just read out Lewis's answer though. Lewis, who's from Hume City Council, I believe, if you'd like to come on camera and give more explanation or draw a bit more on your experience, we'd love to hear from you, as well as read your answer. But the question was that I've been discussing the potential to reduce food waste with a major retail chain. They mentioned that depackaging is a challenge and suggested finding a local social enterprise to help with that. With that being depackaging before sending somewhere for processing. Do you have any experiences on projects like this or guidance on the issue of depackaging?
I don't know of a project. Of course, the food charities sometimes get involved in this space, so they already have some skills in that space. We are yet to do a project in this area, but it's certainly a challenge. And so again, it's a project where I could see a research opportunity to find a system that can do that depackaging. But as I described before, my challenge then is to bring together the parties that can make all the components we need to do a project. So we need to find a solution provider, which there may well be solution providers out there. We need to find a project sponsor. We need to find a research partner. So happy to have a conversation and see if we can find those different bits of the jigsaw to make a project up. We don't have a project in that space right now, so that's always a good thing, and it's a reasonably significant problem in terms of managing the food waste space. So yeah, happy to have an offline conversation, Lewis, and see if there's something we can do.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Katie, I've got a question that I think just came to me. So shall I?
For sure, yeah.
Where is it from? I don't know if you want. If it was so, it was a question returned about restaurants, and saying, are there partnerships and strategies that are in place for restaurants in particular? Nick, do you want to talk sector action plans on this one first, and then I'll.
Yes, there are currently discussions underway to create a sector action plan, which is a strategic plan to address waste across a particular industry or sector, for example. And currently, yes, there's one being developed for restaurants, institutions, food service, etc. If you want to know more, please give us a call or let us know.
And what I would say is, from a research perspective, we are always trying to maximize our impact. So for us, it's about how do we do a project that has scale. So it's not about an intervention. If it's going to be an intervention with an individual restaurant, then it needs to be something that we think can be scalable. Or else we tend to work with chains and try to, or groups of organizations, and try to do something either on a regional basis. So maybe we do something in South Australia or in Victoria or New South Wales, or with a chain of restaurants, and you know the names of restaurants just as well as I do. So and they can be either through sector action plans, which are looking at initiatives across the whole sector, or it might be a specific intervention around protein or around vegetables or bakery goods, depending on the chain itself. But that there are both impact or implementation programs through Nick and research programs through the CRC.
We have had Jonathan Roberts also put into the chat some information about Fridge Friend, which hopefully we'll have a couple more questions and we dive into some very speedy networking / matchmaking that we love to do on these sorts of calls. But I'll pass it next to Michael's question. And again, Michael, feel free to come off mute and come and elaborate more, but I'll read yours out here. With the drive towards paper from plastic, do you invest in projects comparing various packaging formats and their impact on food waste, i.e. shifting from plastic to fibre packaging and its effect on the shelf life of a range of fresh fruit and vegetables? And then the second part, do you measure the impact of packaging waste versus the impact of food waste through a climate change lens, i.e. through LCA?
Michael, that's a good question. Short answer is yes. Michael does a bit of work in the packaging space, so he also understands some of these issues. I think the challenge around getting the packaging right is complicated. Again, it's not as simple as just removing all the packaging, or because the packaging plays a very important role in terms of protection and maintenance of the product quality. We are in the process of, we've done quite a number of projects, primarily through the team at RMIT in Melbourne. They're one of our research partners. We're looking at both trying to help better understand the life cycle assessment for different packaging materials, as well as trying to get a more technology agnostic view of how packaging can help. So there's a number of research projects in that space. We've just got a new PhD candidate started very recently who will be heavily focused on doing more life cycle assessments on some of the different materials. Yeah, it's a curly one, but thank you for asking me a tricky question.
You're welcome, Jonathan.
We wouldn't want to let you off easy on this call, Jonathan. I might remove these spotlights here. Give me a moment there, and we can have everyone all together in the room so we can see everyone. I think this would be a nice way for us to go around the room. I believe I answered all the questions, but if I did miss any, feel free to call me out on it. And yeah, I'd love to hear people 30-second minute sort of introduction to who you are, what you're doing, maybe also a call to action. If there's people on this call that you're particularly interested with speaking with, or an area of advice you're looking for, or someone you're looking to work for or with, sorry. I think that would be a great outcome of the day. So would anyone like to jump in first, or I'll start calling out names as we go? Okay, I might, be the mean one. Jonathan Roberts, sorry, I did see your comment in the chat, so it'd be great to hear a bit more about Fridge Friend.
No problem.
What you're doing
Thanks,
there.
Katie. Look, I'll be as quick as I can. I've been running a commercial business putting humidity and bacteria control filters into cool rooms for about 10 years. And I've always wanted to try and look at how do I put that technology into fridges. We recently launched Fridge Friend, uses the same mineral that absorbs ethylene gas, bacteria, mold, mildew, and also buffers humidity. So we launched it 6 months ago. Really, it's taken off pretty well. We're at the point where we want to get some more data around the efficiency or efficacy of the product. That's why I'm reaching out to research companies. I'm using CoLabs in Melbourne to do some testing of the product with and without filters in fridges. But yeah, look, that's the product. We're excited about it. We're at the pointy end, the consumer end. I guess our philosophy is trying to reduce food waste one fridge at a time. We're a big fan of the war on food waste, or the war on waste at the moment. So we're trying to leverage off that at the moment. But no, look, that's the business, and we're pretty excited about how it's going and the opportunity for it to go outside of Australia as well.
Yeah, look, 2 seconds. It's interesting, super interesting technology. Jonathan, great name. As I said, it's an area of interest to us. I think there's lots of potential there. It's just, as I say, it comes back to my job of completing the jigsaw to make a project. You're one important part of the jigsaw. Would need to find the other bits, but I'm definitely open to a conversation about can we do that.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Does anyone else want to jump in before I start calling people out? Take the uncertainty out and just get it over and done with.
Katie or Katie?
Katie or anything. I'll answer it to Katie. That's fine.
My name is Xuan. I've been working on a social enterprise setup called City Compost Network. So currently we're evaluating the education, the social, the health benefit of community compost initiative, and the benefit and the gap it fills in raising awareness and reduce contamination rate for FOGO. I would love to have a chat with Jonathan or Nick offline about how to evaluate that properly, and if there is research opportunity there, or industry partnership to crack down that issue, because it's costly.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And yeah, happy to chat. As I say, the researchers are way smarter than me in terms of how they actually do it, but I can channel the research as best as I can. And also, I think there's a range. We know that there's not one silver bullet for this solution. This problem. It's a whole range of. It's silver buckshot. I stole that off somebody else, but I like it a lot. And so we're always keen to look at different interventions. We're trying to test different interventions in different council areas. So yeah, happy to chat.
Perfect. Lewis, thank you, my saviour of saving my awkward silence for a second, if you want to jump in.
Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Luis. I work for the Hume City Council as the Circular Economy Officer, mostly focusing on businesses. So I am trying to find different solutions in general for all sorts of waste, and not only waste, but just like different ways of operating in the area. Food waste is obviously a big one. So yeah, like I said, I've been trying to reach out to different companies and see if we can help in any way. So I just wanted to say that for everyone in here, if you have any initiatives or ideas that you think could help, please feel free to reach out. And I'm happy to talk with anybody. Thank you.
Great, thank you. If you want to also put your email address in the chat too, that could be a nice way for people to find you, same as that offer to everyone else to join in there. Peter, I can see a comment in there saying that you're from the Federal Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water, and you lead the food and organic waste section. So, there's a few of you online throughout. That's so lovely to have DQ online and observing and hearing from some of the other people. So if anyone's after DQ's attention, this is the time to put your hand up and speak, because we've got them in the room talking with us. Michael, would you like to give us a bit of information? Jonathan did allude to you working in packaging space, but I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Katie, and thanks for having me. And thanks, Jonathan, for that segue. Yes, I'm an independent packaging consultant, and I'm sort of at the moment working in the deep dungeons of Coles. So I'm working with the retailer at this stage. It's great to have our federal colleagues on the call there as well. And I guess my question that I put to Jonathan is a tricky one, because obviously being a customer-facing brand, consumer is always right in the eyes of a retailer, and certainly when it comes to anti-plastic sentiment, and especially in areas like produce, fresh fruit, and so on. So there's that lovely balance and juxtaposition of, from a science point of view, knowing that packaging has a massive job to do to reduce food waste and protect the product in the supply chain, but also it doesn't have a really good brand in relation to recyclability, and paper looks wonderful, but it doesn't really do a great job in relation to protection. So our balance is to try and work out the science versus perception, which is a challenge. And even looking at gentlemen, team we've got from the government there, I'd be interested in looking at the FOGO side. There's always an attraction about compostable and certified compostable packaging as a medium, but then we have a FOGO system nationally which doesn't actually adopt or allow that format to go within the food waste supply chain, even when it does meet certification. And if it is collected, we know that the all bioorganic processes have a human element in the sorting line, which tend to actually take things out that may look like anything other than organic. So it does leave us in a bind, both on consumer perception as well as infrastructure, which is in the government's hand. So yeah, it's an interesting challenge. So for me, understanding where other people on this call are looking about food waste minimisation and the role packaging plays in it, our battle is about negative perception versus the scientific reality of the job that it does. So that's where I'm sitting.
Great, thank you. I appreciate you cooperating with me, throwing you under the bus there.
That's all right.
Yeah, I'd love to hear next, if no one else has their hand up, but Jean from Cirque du Soil heard amazing things about the work that you're doing. If you wanted to jump in and give yourself a shout out.
Hi, I was just thinking, I actually have a CRC discussion meeting after this, so I'm actually doing the pitch deck. So I'm Jean, and I'm the founder of Cirque du Soil, which means circular soil or circular waste, however you want to look at it. So we've been kind of nutting out how to enable technology-based, I guess, solutions for small business traders. So we work anything that is sticky or difficult in a built environment landscape. We kind of take a place-based approach to communities. And so we do a lot of trader engagement. We're currently running the Go Full Circle program with City of Melbourne and other councils to try and take traders through that same journey. And we just published, and it's still due to go online, a circular hospitality best practice guide. So I'm actually quite aware of some of the projects that Fight Food Waste is doing with the sector action plan. We actually have 2 R&D projects sort of in the go, which I'm hoping to do. One is getting technology with AI into small businesses, knowing how small and tight their kitchen environments are. And my joke is always, if Broad Street gets front of house, we always get back of house. So we've stared at a lot of waste rooms and kitchens. But this tech that we are about to try and get into small kitchens, this will actually give visibility on, basically prep waste, plate waste, production side of menu orders and things like that. So that can inform menu redesign. I'm just really excited about it. So I'm just looking to figure out, we have seed funding with Circular Economy Victoria, and we're just trying to figure out how to keep the longevity going, and how to make chefs and kitchens respect the equipment and what that actually will perform like in a busy, hot working environment. And we also use food recycling technology as well. So yes, that's kind of what we do in a nutshell.
Great, thank you. And Belle put in a great suggestion in the chat that if you don't get the chance to speak and if you're a startup or a supporter of startups or just a food waste avoider, I don't like to say enthusiast, I feel like that is contradicting, but if you would like to stay connected, please put your information in the chat. Nissan Sala, I have seen lots of questions come through on the chat, but it would be great to hear how you fit into this picture.
Thank you, Katie. So good morning, everyone. I'm Nissan Sala. So I'm a PhD researcher at RMIT University. Actually, I work with Fight Food Waste Ltd. I'm the new research student who is working at the field of life cycle assessment. So my main focus is to identify the opportunities of food waste reduction across all the food supply chains. So I will use life cycle assessment as one of a tool. Before I joined RMIT, I worked as an environmental consultant in Sri Lanka for 11 years. So I have provided my expertise to several industries, including food waste in food sector industries as well as the manufacturing industries. So that's about myself. Thank you. It's great to meet you, Jonathan.
Yes, sorry, I forgot your name. I apologize. There I am promoting your excellent work, and I've got you on the call.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, great. Joseph, I can see you're on the call. If you're free to chat, I'd love to hear. I know a little bit about zero tag, but it would be good to tell everyone about how that fits into the food waste narrative.
Yeah, so I'm Joseph from Zero Tag, and we create digital product labels for food to show the people and stories behind the product without the need of excess packaging. So this is especially useful for the circular economy in situations where people want to avoid packaging waste, but have a large story to tell. In the case of food waste, people, it's like sometimes the beauty of the food in front of people, you'll never know what went into that. You wouldn't know that we got to avoid food waste, and now we created maybe new food. So this is making that visible and creating that connection between the consumers and the people behind the product.
Great, thank you. And I think that's bringing us right to time now. We're just before 11 o'clock, so we'll give everyone a minute back in their day. But thank you so much for joining. I'll be staying on for a couple more minutes in case you did want to chat with anyone else that's remaining. But shameless plug, of course, before we leave, is we do have an application still open for Boomerang Labs Accelerator at the moment. For late stage startups, New South Wales space for this round, but if you're beyond that, please still reach out. We'd love to hear from you ahead of time, ready for our further reaching programs. So thanks everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.